Back to Unrattled, where we shake off our past parenting mistakes and stay engaged with our kids. I'm your host, Vinay Holden, and today we're talking about something that so many parents experience but don't always have the language for: why our children's behavior can feel so triggering. We're focusing on attachment styles, how our own upbringing shapes the way you respond to your child, why certain behaviors hit a nerve, and what's actually happening in those moments when your reaction feels bigger than expected. And most importantly, we'll get into what you can do with that awareness so you can show up more grounded, more present, and of course, more unrattled. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Unrattled, where we shake off our past parenting mistakes and stay engaged with our kids. I'm your host, Vinay Holden, and I'm really excited about this conversation.
Let's go, Vinay.
Because I'm joined with Josh, Lauren, and Jessica again, and we're talking about something I think every parent has experienced: why our kids' behavior can feel so triggering. So I wanted to start with an icebreaker. Let's see. Jay, what's one kid's behavior that instantly tests your patience? Like one that gets under your skin the fastest?
Bullying. When I see young kids bullying, like even with my own children, if I see them doing something that's not fair to their siblings, I have zero patience for it.
Me
like
neither.
I hate it. And I call it to the front real quick, but then I also remind them, you are to be the opposite of what you are exhibiting. You are supposed to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. You're supposed to protect those who can't protect themselves, and you're supposed to speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves. You do not kick a person when they're down, right? And I hate that. I hate that behavior.
I don't like a bully either. Okay, Jessica, what is one recent parenting moment where you found yourself reacting in a way that surprised you?
There was a situation with my daughter, and she has very big feelings. She feels things very deeply, and it sits just below the surface, so it doesn't take much for it to come out in a big way. And sometimes it's hard for me to keep that in mind. And I'm thinking, like, this was just a simple little thing. Why, and I question why the big reaction. And so I found myself getting annoyed by it. Like, this is not that big a deal. Like, what do you, instead of just, and that it was just instinctual, instead of just sort of taking a step back and reminding myself, okay, like, especially with kids, and teenagers are still kids, like the little things can feel really big. And I'm usually pretty cognizant of how I respond. I try to be very intentional, but yeah, I just was really annoyed. Like, what? This is annoying. Why are you making such a big deal of this?
Honestly, that's so real.
And but the flip side of that was I realized really quickly that I was being dismissive, and that just exacerbated the situation. Right. So, yeah.
And that's why this conversation matters, too, because those reactions don't come out of nowhere. They're shaped by our experiences, our wiring, and our attachment patterns. So I wanted to start with you, Lauren. By grounding this, what do we actually mean when we say attachment styles?
Yeah, so attachment styles are the ways that we engage with others, like in our relationships. So when you think about it, how we bond, our relationship with ourselves, it all comes from the first relationships that we really have. We model based off of, our caregivers. And so that kind of can set the tone for the way that we move through the world and interact with other people. And so it may feel like just a fancy buzzword, but if you think about it, the way that we operate in relationships look different based off of the person it is, the role that relationship is in our life. But a lot of times we can look throughout our childhood, through our early history, and we can see some similar patterns in those relationships. Like, that is how I've seen this before.
100%. So do you think parents have awareness of their own attachment styles before having kids?
I think in the past, no. I mean, not necessarily. It wasn't,
They probably didn't have a name.
Right. Exactly.
That's what this is.
But I think today, because, it's been more researched, and then, this as a topic in the wider sort of, zeitgeist of like social media and really understanding, our inner worlds. I think that it's much more, we've all engaged and learned more about it. So I think that probably today's parents have more of an understanding. But I think probably a lot of parents, some may have, I don't want to generalize, but I mean, I did not know my attachment style. I just took the quiz today.
We all did.
We all did.
And I talk to people about their attachment style. So, sometimes we may know it, but we don't necessarily know ours. And we also may be more sensitive to, we can see it easier in the people around us than our own.
Yeah, that's true. Even though I didn't know mine starting out as a parent, but in the last, 5 or 6 years, I've become more aware. And now that I know the patterns, I can see them. But still in the moment, as a parent, I'm not thinking about, I just don't think about it until I step back and try to be intentional about, okay, why do I feel this way? Like what? Okay, this is what this is. This is a me issue, not a you.
Yeah.
But you just, as parents, you just not, I think most of us are just out here day to day surviving.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, that
Try not to crash out with our kids.
Well, truly. I mean, and all of us, like right now, I mean, there is so much, we're inundated with things and stresses and all of that. I mean, that level of hyper awareness, like at every interaction, requires a lot of mental energy and mental space.
Yeah.
And as a parent, you're also, kind of having to provide in a lot of different ways to your children. It's hard to be like, okay, let me
Consciously aware all the time.
correct.
Of those things, yeah.
And I kind of wanted to ask the question of like how this lands in real life. Now that we know our attachment styles, because we just took the
Are we going to
test.
disclose?
We can't. I mean, if
Yeah.
you would like to, yeah. So now that you know, Jay, like now that you know what your attachment style is, does any like how does that show up for you
What
as a
is it?
parent?
You
What
gonna
is
tell
it,
us?
and how does it show up?
So my attachment style was anxious, preoccupied. And it's crazy to think that that's who I am, because it's and when I look back on my childhood, it makes all the sense. You get what I'm saying? My self-esteem, I have to constantly be reassured that, I'm loved, that I'm cared for, that you're not going to abandon me. And I was just telling Lauren and Vinay about being the reality of my daughter's growing up now, and I'm not the cool dad, and they don't want to come sit next to me, and they want to do all, go and be. And I'm like, man, like, I just want to know y'all still love your boy,
Yeah, sometimes that, like, on a certain level, like, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah. And so, like, I see now, it's the idea of them growing up and no longer needing me, not needing me to be dad, or, why am I feel like I'm about to cry? Like, what is going on?
You'll always be dad, but that role looks
Changes.
different.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense, like, particularly if we have what's called like attachment wounds from when we were younger. It's like, okay, even though this is a normal developmental process where we're pulling away from our parents and getting more, independent, and our parents aren't as cool as, they used to be to us, because naturally we're coming into ourselves and, our personalities, but it can feel really personal.
Yeah, it does.
It still hurts, and especially if we have that wound that hasn't necessarily been, we've just put a Band-Aid over instead of let it really like heal.
And I want to, because my dad wasn't there, right? I really want to be a great dad. Like, I really want to be a great dad. I want to stay daddy forever. Like, I want to stay like the best dad ever, man. And so, to think that I'm now the corny dad, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta always be the cool dad, So yeah, that's.
But I wanna say something to that though. The fact that you are the corny dad right now, to me, speaks to the fact that they're not worried that you're going anywhere. They can push you away, but they're not worried. They're not second guessing your love of them. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh.
yeah, because they're not over here like, okay, I have to be.
I have to hold on to them as long as I can.
But now they're like, they have the security to know that they can be themselves and grow up, but you're not going anywhere, so you can't. So I don't know, wear that corny dad hat, like a badge of honor.
You know what? I'm gonna get a trucker dad hat that says corny dad. Yeah, on it.
Yes.
I feel a Christmas gift idea.
Come on, there we go.
I love that contrast too. That's so important.
I needed that.
Because it shows up like how differently that these patterns can play out within ourselves and for our children. And I wanted to get to the part where I think every parent feels like those moments where your child does something and your reaction feels bigger than expected. And I wanted to start with you, Lauren. Why do certain behaviors like defiance, clinginess, or meltdowns feel so triggering?
Oof. Okay. So this,
Settle in, people.
I know. This one, because it's really hard to kind of articulate, without feeling like this is a judgmental thing or, but when we think about our parents' reactions to us, or to their, behave like to the people around them even, if that brought up any negative feelings in us, when your kid is doing that, it's almost as if you're back to being that small child experiencing what your parent, So when we think about a parent that's maybe a little bit more emotionally volatile up and down, maybe that's given us a little bit more of like, they have more of a disorganized attachment style or something that kind of, you don't know where you stand with them. When your child then does that, we don't even know, but it feels kind of the same way that parent, how they acted. And so we just kind of go back to that place, especially if we're not aware.
Yeah. And I definitely want to get y'all's perspective. Like, what's a moment where you really felt triggered and later realized it was something deeper? Josh?
I think it was, so my daughters, oftentimes, like when they don't want to be with me, or I want to go with mommy, I'd rather go with mommy, and I'm just like, dang, like, hold on, man, like, what y'all mean y'all don't want to kick it with your dad? Like, and I think at the time, like, it was offensive in a way that made me feel like, oh, they don't love me, they don't want to be with
rejection.
me. Yeah, like that whole idea, which goes back to the attachment style. My attachment style is just the fear of rejection, the fear of being you're not loved, right? And so I'm like, man, like, dang, like, I do all this for y'all. I take you to gymnastics. I pay for this. I just took y'all to the movies. Like, but y'all don't want to go with your mama, and all your mama gonna do is do your nails and stuff. Like, I'm in here trying to rationalize it, but then, like, when I look back, it's just they didn't want to be outside, and they just wanted to be in the house. And it's what I'm reacting to is those little boy wounds, little Josh, those wounds, that, man, because of my dad and, my mom and her limited knowledge, they did a number on me when I was a kid. So I'm reacting from that. Right. And so, like that's, to my brothers out there, we got to do the work. We got to heal. We got to do that. And, like that's just the reality.
It is.
I don't know. And Jessica, is there a behavior from your child that consistently hits a nerve for you?
I think, the forgetfulness, in terms of, I don't even say forgetfulness. I'm not sure what the right way to articulate it is, but, along with ADHD comes, I'm maybe sitting on the couch having something to drink, and I'm going to set my cup down. And when I walk away, I don't remember that cup exists.
Object impermanence.
There you go. That's the phrase. And so I might walk in and see several different things all through the house, and it triggers me because I grew up in a household where everything had its place. You did not leave anything out. There were consequences if you did. And so I have to stop myself, but it's very triggering. And my husband has a habit of like having piles of things, like the mail. Like sometimes the mail goes beyond the mail table and makes its way in the kitchen, and in the and it really does something inside of me. Like I know it's just a piece of mail, like I get it, but it's amazing how much those things, like, you know, this knickknack goes on this table next to this picture frame, and why is it moved, and did you touch it, and did you, like, those sort of little things can be so conditioning.
Yes. Truly.
And I don't want my kids, if I don't want my husband to feel like that. And so, but in some sense, it creates so much anxiety in me. Like, why is there a pile of mail on the kitchen counter? Why is there a pile of mail on the kitchen counter? The mail goes at the table at the back door. And I know that sounds crazy, but it does.
Yeah.
You know, some days I can walk in and I just don't mind picking up the cups as I make my way through the house. Doesn't bother me a bit. And then other days, I really feel like, how can you be so thoughtless? I've worked all day, and why do I have to come pick up? You know,
It feels like, because if we did that when we were younger, it was seen as disrespect or something.
That part.
You know, and now it's taking you back, like, oh, they're just,
Yes.
you know, it's,
And I don't want to recreate that.
right. Because neurodivergency, it's not defiance. It's not, you know, like not caring. It's like my brain works differently.
Yes.
And it's hard to.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that triggers me. But what I know is it's my trigger. It's my responsibility to figure it out, not hers. And so, you know, I don't always, like, I mess up a lot, but I try to always come back around and be like, golly, I didn't do that really
Repair
well. I'm
is always
sorry,
important.
You know?
Do y'all find that you're triggered by the same things, or like completely different things that like you dealt with in your childhood versus now, like your behavior that your child does? I guess it depends on the situation.
Yeah, it does depend on the situation. I can definitely see there's a lot about being a young girl, you know, and when I was growing up, like, I was always told, like, you're so smart and you know, you have so much potential and all these things, and you can be anything you want to be, but not really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I tried intentionally not to do that with my daughter. And but you know, that assertiveness and that sticking up for themselves, they do that at home too. And so sometimes it's like, hold up, who are you talking to like that? You know, they practice that skill on you, and it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
But I want her to be that way. But it is hard to absorb being on the other end of it sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I never had the guts to do it. Like, I would have never. There were plenty of times as a kid that I heard the adults around me, like, saying things and doing things that I thought, well, that ain't right.
Yeah.
Well, that ain't what you just did. You said do this, but you didn't do that. And it wasn't until I hit, you know, like 19 or 20 that I had the courage to say, well, you're being very hypocritical now. Like, don't,
That's not cool.
do you know? But you recognize it a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But she didn't have to wait to hit that point. And so, you know, which I'm happy for, but at the same time, there's that part of me that had to stay quiet. That, you know, it triggers me a bit.
Yeah, that do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
It's
So
ingrained.
So instead of focusing on just the behavior that they're exhibiting, we're also paying attention to what it's bringing up in us. And Lauren, I wanted to ask, can you help us understand what's happening in the brain during those moments? Those moments that she just explained of, like, oh my God, you know, like, I wouldn't do that, but.
well, and I have I have an anxious attachment style also. It's anxious, fearful. And both of my parents divorced when I was young, and both of them were in and out of my life all of my childhood till I was about 14. And so, I had real abandonment issues, and I was always as a kid, you internalize those things. Maybe if I was just better, maybe if I didn't misbehave, if I was easier to take care of, those kind of things. And so I still, find myself feeling that way.
So we've got these patterns, right, that we've developed since we're a child. And so in our brain, we make these neural connections between, what we've experienced as a child and, we feel is being replicated in the moment. And so for a lot of us, when we're having those moments of like reaction, it's kind of our nervous system sort of reacting. And, we have that idea of fight, flight, fawn, like all those different.
Knew there was a fawn in there.
Yeah. Fight, flight,
freeze,
fawn. Thank you. I was like, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on this? But because like I love doing like nervous system stuff, but and so our nervous system gets activated, and we are like, again, our brain is feeling like we're under attack, like we're about to get hurt. And so even though we're not being physically chased by bears, what's happening is that past hurt feels like that predator coming for us again. And, it's kind of overwhelming if we're not aware of it. It kind of sneaks up on us.
And not every time are we going to be aware of it because it feels so automatic, like, like learned behavior.
We have those neural pathways, those connections made with, with that particular experience. And so it's gonna bring us back, and we've got to learn how to rewire that, create, more healthy, or less, kind of less triggering, thought patterns and things like that.
So when you hear that, Josh, does it shift how you think about your reactions? Like, can you think of a moment where you reacted before you even had time to think about it?
I can't really recall a time that I reacted with my daughters, with my children, without thinking. Because that's I'm always at the forefront of thinking about how me as a man, and in their eyes are big, even though I'm not that big, I'm a small guy, I try to act like I'm muscular and stuff, but how I could come off to them. So I often try to keep that in mind, but definitely I can think of times, even with my wife or in different circumstances at work where I may have reacted in a way that is because of my attachment style, right? And not really even thinking that that's the reason why, but thinking just because I believe this is right. And for me, it's right because it was the thing that troubled me or triggered me the most when I was a kid. So I'm fighting back. I'm fighting for the Josh Jones who didn't have the voice, when he was 6 and 7. So I'm fighting for him today in these spaces because now I understand my voice, right? And so, I don't think I've had any instances with my children. I feel like if I probably would have had a son, it probably would have been a whole lot of those moments. But it's because I'm so conscious about how I handle my daughters that I really think and often, before I respond or react.
And really the next step is to become aware of like that behavior. And we know that it happens automatically, but the awareness is really where it begins. And Lauren, I wanted to ask, like, how can parents start recognizing they're being triggered in the moment? Because sometimes, like I said, it just is automatic,
Yes.
We just have that feeling inside of us.
I think the most kind of straightforward and easiest way for us to really kind of notice and be aware of our, like, if we're feeling triggered or, activated, is really getting to know our body cues, right? And so, if you start paying attention to the way that your body feels in these different moments, or even in like the normal everyday moments, so that when it's off, so like, okay, if I'm getting angry, like for me personally, I will feel like, a heat come across my face. I feel like my skin kind of prickles, like I feel tense, and my body is telling me like I'm upset, I am activated right now, I'm in fight, you know. And then of course I start to cry because I'm an angry crier.
I am too.
And so, you know, when I have all these things and I'm aware of them, so because, you know, our body knows before our conscious brain does. And so when I'm able to recognize and I pay attention to those things, that's where, okay, I'm feeling the prickle. I'm feeling the heat, and I'm like, okay, let me go woosah. Let me go take a lap and come back to this. And so really taking time to get to know your internal world, it's called interoception, is one of the easiest, or I don't want to say easy because it's not easy, being aware and being able to, in the heat of the moment, it does take a lot. It's a practice. But getting familiar with how your body feels during regulation and when you're dysregulated can really help you catch yourself before we get from 0 to 100. You know, maybe we catch ourselves at 0 to 50 and we can, okay, let me check that. Let me come back.
And I also wanted to ask, like, how do we build awareness without turning it into shame? Because once you do have that awareness, you automatically think, I know better.
And that's a complicated question, right? Good. Because part of it is where does that shame come from? I mean, often it comes from our attachment wounds.
I know. Right? If you can't tolerate their discomfort, it's probably because you weren't tolerated as a child.
Yeah, very much so. I think one of the benefits of kind of doing somatic work, and noticing that we're feeling triggered, things like that, we're taking the conscious out of it. We're taking the kind of the cognition around it, those beliefs maybe around it. We're just paying attention to our body, you know, and our body is responding in this way, not necessarily, it's not even just my thoughts, you know, but when we take it out and we're like, okay, I'm having this reaction in that moment, like I'm feeling the heat, I'm feeling shaky or whatever it is, I know I'm responding. Instead of that shame or coming from these emotions, this is my body's natural reaction because of what's happened in the past. And so we're able to ground ourselves in, this is my body letting me know, rather than I knew that this, like, I know I'm triggered and that's a bad, like, I should have known better. I should have done this differently. But instead it's like, okay, I'm focused on my experience in the here and now, right now, the way that my body's responding. Yeah. So it feel like it takes some of that natural inclination to blame or shame or, you know, we're taking that out of it. We're focused on our body. We're focused on the way that it responds. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're trying to circumvent that little voice in our head that's sometimes really mean. And
instead of from your amygdala, kind of shift it back to your prefrontal cortex. Okay. Although we're
talking about the brain now.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to do that, though, because especially when you are feeling this physically, like for me, when I'm upset, I get shaky, I get quiet because my inner, you know, I'm in like fight, okay? Yeah. And so I have to regulate my body first before I can even clearly think. And so I do bottom up grounding exercises, and then I do top down, which is like you think from your brain, and then you're like, okay, I'm not being chased, but how can I handle
not being chased by tigers?
Yeah. It happens a lot.
Yes. I mean, it does. I mean, all of us,
it does.
We all kind of sometimes live in a state of elevated nervous system.
I do the left-right grounding.
Like the bilateral?
No. I do the left-right.
Right. Sometimes that works.
Yes.
Listen.
I know.
Technically, it is bilateral.
It is. Doing some bilateral stimulation.
I'm just kidding, y'all. I do not throw hands all the time.
But I wanted to hear how this shows up for you, Jessica. When do you first realize, okay, this isn't just about my child? You know, it's like when you're feeling, you know, like you're being chased by a tiger, however that shows up for you. Like, when do you first realize?
When I'm shutting down. When I'm shutting down, because there's nothing in the world that I love more than my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And know that I want to be present and I want to be connected. But when I'm in the moment and in a situation, and you know, I find myself being more triggered with my daughter, I think just because of my own wounds and my stuff as a little girl. It's not to say that she as a person is more triggering. I just think the experience of watching her grow and develop as a young woman has made me more conscious of the things I lacked and the support I didn't have. And so I think that's why it's triggering. It's not her. But I will, when I find myself shutting down and distancing myself from her, and not allowing myself to respond, like I'm a nurturer, you know, I love caring for her, but there are times where I will find myself shutting down and just almost being cold. And that's just not me. And so, yeah, that's when I know for sure, like, okay, this is doing something to me. Yeah. So.
Wow. What's something you're still working on as a parent?
Yeah. That, you know, I know like working through those things where it comes from. So I feel more empowered to change it. You know, and unfortunately there's just some damage that has to be repaired, at this point. And it's reparable for sure. But, you know, being able to try to soften back up in those moments and just be there. I'm also, I mean, I'm sure it's part of the attachment style, but I'm a fixer. Like I want to fix it. Like I want to try to give you a solution. I want to, you know, and so just sitting in that, in the discomfort is hard for me. So that's what I'm having to practice. Like just being there and saying, gosh, you know, that really sucks. It sucks that somebody did that to you. Or, you know, when people hurt you, it's hard. And, you know, so yeah.
So what is something that you've tried that actually helps you pause even a little in like different moments?
I think the box method that I learned in one of our episodes has helped me. I don't like draw it on my leg like we do, but I do it. You know, I find myself intentionally just breathing in and just shutting up, to be honest, because I feel the silence with talking. But I have found that if I just shut up and listen, I'm a lot more able to be present. And she feels more supported in that time with, you know, she doesn't need me to fix things all the time. And that's my trigger. So I find that helps. Just
Just pausing.
Pause and shut up.
Sometimes listening.
Active listening is hard.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It's hard for me. Yeah.
Well, and I think we all have this like urge, this writing reflex is what we call it, to want to fix. I mean, a lot of us. But, you know, sometimes the fixing is just like listening and being present with that person, and that's enough, you know, in that moment. And you're also honoring yourself and giving yourself that moment to be like, okay, I am activated right now. I'm going to be quiet and listen instead of react. And so you're also able to kind of then internally collect yourself while you're also listening.
You know, it's so crazy because that is one of the things I've really been wrestling with too lately, not just with my children, but with my wife, and my sisters as well. Right. If y'all remember, I grew up around nothing but women. So, I'm often called on and asked for advice, and by default as a man in these spaces that I grew up in or I've existed in my entire life, I've defaulted to wanting to be the fixer, the protector, the provider, right? And so I found that in the past, because I've always been that person that was I had to figure it out. I have to come up with a solution. I had to find something out and make it right. And it oftentimes became more of a burden on me trying to find a solution to someone else's problem, because I've taken on that identity. And as of late, I've been able to do kind of what Jessica is saying, is just sit there and say, man, that sucks, man. And like everybody, but the expectation is still there though.
Right.
It's like, it sucks. So like, what can we do? And I'm just like, shoot, man, I can pray with you, like that's it. But like taking that, it being that ear, just allowing but it's been better with my wife and with my children. I'm not fixing their problems, and so now it's just, I have those better conversations. I listen, and it's just like, that's interesting. I hear them more because now I'm not, okay, putting 2 + 2 + 4 + 4, and trying to line everything up now. And so it's been a way more freeing, but it's still hard.
I was just going to say that's actually, I found that it's more empowering when I do that in those moments. I feel more empowered than, because if I'm the one that's fixing it, sometimes I come out and I'm resentful about it. Like, this ain't my damn problem.
Come on. Come on.
And so I feel more empowered to just show up.
Yeah.
Just show up, even if it's with your listening ear or your presence, can be really powerful.
And that kind of brings us into something really important, which is connection. I mean, you do something that you regret, and then we know like repair is just as important.
Yeah.
And then so is connection. And I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about co-regulation before, and I just wanted to reiterate, why is it so important for our kids?
I mean, it is so invaluable, because when we are able as adults to say to them like, wow, you're feeling really upset and I feel really upset for you. Like, it makes me, I'm hurting with you. Let's like take a second and like, let's feel loved. What do you need to feel loved right now? Or what helps when you feel, you're feeling unloved or you feel rejected? And it's that connection of identifying, of empathy, and it allows them to figure those things out for themselves. And it's not you telling them, what to do, but it's that connection, and you're teaching them how to regulate their own nervous system and identifying what their needs are and how to fulfill them, but you're doing it alongside them. And so it's very empowering, and it is that moment of nourishment and connection, and they feel secure with that.
Yeah, I wanted to see how that played out in your homes. Like, what does connection look like for you in those harder moments?
In the hard moments, sometimes it just looks like being in the same physical space, and staying there. Yeah. Because I have an instinct to walk away. I don't want to be here right now. I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm going to go somewhere else because I'm upset. And, so just sometimes just staying in the physical space and remembering, like letting myself time pass enough that I cannot be emotional and, upset, and allowing myself to remember, I love you. I don't like this situation. I don't like, the way it's making me feel, but I'm going to stick right here.
Yeah.
Like I'm, so for me, that's the challenge for me. Cause I literally I will want to get in my car and drive. Don't know where I'm going. Don't know how long I'm going to be gone, but I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. Like I don't want to be here. Like I literally have to don't get up, don't get your keys, just sit.
And
Just
that's
stay.
good. That's good.
So that's for me. And right now that's the hardest thing. It's just staying
with the uncomfortableness.
Yeah. Sit in it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so powerful, and, in this concept of co-regulation, and that it's okay to sit in that discomfort. We can get through it. Neither of us are going anywhere.
Right.
Just because we may have a rupture.
That part.
Yeah.
And like Jay said, I think it all goes back for me. It all goes back to the absence of my parent figures. There were a lot of other adults in my life who were wonderful. And, I was very blessed. it does not change that fact. It just is.
Yeah.
You know, so
It because I mean they're your first. That's your first
Example
everything.
for everything.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
and so it's that's why it's so painful when you feel that they're avoiding the discomfort.
and it took me a long time to understand that I could say that that I could say I have issues with being abandoned as a child
Yeah.
without it feeling disrespectful to the people who didn't abandon me.
Right.
Yeah.
Both can be true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think for a long time, that's why I avoided, you know, recognizing those wounds and healing those wounds. And also because healing is messy.
Yes.
It is.
You think
And it's hard work, man.
Yeah. Work is the key word there.
Well, and I think that's what I want to acknowledge too, like knowing about attachment styles and things is that, yes, we could be anxious avoidant. We can be, you know, we have disorganized attachment style, all those things. That does not mean that we have never had the presence of a secure attachment, right?
Yeah.
It's that some of those wounds were just happened to be bigger and came from our primary caregivers.
Yeah.
But you know, that's why it's you had those stable, secure, loving, wonderful relationships that were fulfilling.
Right.
But there were still wounds from primary, from mom and dad, and that's both of those things can be true at the same time. It's not an all or nothing.
Yeah.
And there's something about the experience of parenting, of being a mother that reminds me and brings up all of those things I didn't have in a mother. And I'm sure it's the same for you. And so I find myself wanting to overcompensate. And like Jay said, when I'm in those moments and I realize I've been less than the mother I wanted to be,
It hurts.
it hurts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's
But we're human. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just
I know. It's all part of the human experience.
Right.
And I think a lot of parents hear this and feel a little bit of relief, you know, but
Yeah.
also guilt. What would you say to a parent who feels bad about how they've reacted?
ooh, the parent guilt will get you.
oh yeah. Is that I mean, you know, we said it earlier that the repair is possible. It is, and it is often just as important and critical and possible as, you know, the rupture. But it is more healing to come back and say, like, I'm sorry I reacted this way. Like, it brought something up in me. It was an old hurt that I had. And that wasn't your fault.
Right.
That was my reaction, and I'm sorry that it came through. And that way you're coming back and you're acknowledging that hurt, that moment where maybe they felt like you were avoiding, like you shut down, whatever, you know. But coming back means that you didn't just ignore it and walk away. It's, I realized that this came to me and I care enough to come back and repair that.
Yeah.
And then that helps foster that security too, that even when we are dysregulated, because none of us are, if anybody says that they are just like, oh, I've got everything perfectly under control,
That's a lie.
you're a liar.
Right. And your pants on fire.
Either that or I need to know what your secret is. But because we are all going to have, even the most well-meaning, well-intentioned, aware person, I mean, our brain can't be at 110% at all times. So, but coming back and taking that accountability and wanting that bid for connection, that's secure. That's even when we have those moments where we do have that rupture, we're not going anywhere. That doesn't change our relationship. And I can own up to
Right.
what happened and how the situation affected me, and in turn how that reaction in me affected what was going on with us.
There are situations that I've come out of and not really known, like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to fix this. And one thing that really helps me is remembering the little girl in me and what I wanted. Like, you know, either of my parents today could still come to me and say, I was wrong. I should have done this. You know, like you said, take accountability, apologize, be real.
Yeah.
And I know that's all I would have wanted from my parents, so that's what I try to give.
Yeah.
And I find that it works because parents want like that. They love their parent. I mean, kids love their parents
Yes.
just as much as parents love them. So.
And that's something to be really proud of when you do make that shift. It's like, you know what? I'm going to be the person that I needed when I was a young girl. And I am proud of that, you know? And I feel like this was such a meaningful conversation. And thank you all for being here. And if you're listening and taking all this in, here's what I want you to remember. Being unrattled doesn't mean you never get triggered or rattled. It means you start to understand what's happening inside you so you can come back to your child differently, because your child doesn't need a perfect parent, they need a present one. And every time you pause, repair, or choose connection, you're building that sense of safety. So thank you.
Man, that's good.
Yeah, ain't it?
Yes.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Gulf Regional Early Childhood Services or its partners. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals with any questions you may have regarding parenting, education, or your child's development. See you next time.